I want to share with you the palette of plants that we're going to be placing today. And I'll start with the bigger ones. So what I have in here, well, first of all, let me show you kind of it. And don't be confused, this is my garden right in here, so we're not talking about those plants. I'm just talking about the ones that I have set aside here that we're going to work on placing in the garden for these guys to plant today. So I've got a rose, and this is one of my favorite roses because I like its compact size, I love its coloring, and I was so happy and glad that I was able to find it that I picked up 5 of them. I'm not 100% sure that we need all 5, but I grabbed them while I could, knowing that I would happily use them elsewhere. So I just took advantage of the fact that they had 5 plants. They look like they're last year's plants, so they're good and full, and they're going to really perform well this year. That rose is not, so I've gotten 5 so that I can repeat them through the garden, but they're not so large that they're going to overwhelm the space. So that's another reason that I like them. The other 2 shrub-like things that you see in the screen right now, they're dormant, they're just waking up, but we've got a Berberis orange rocket. So that was selected for its really just beautiful electric reddish orange foliage and its upright growth habit. So we're able to repeat that color throughout this garden and not give up too big of a footprint, because they're a small footprint. They're going to be kind of tall and not terribly tall, about 3 feet tall, and with pruning can be kept, relatively upright. And so that's what I was going for, is an economical way to bring a real dark and beautiful burgundy, purpley red into the scene. Another one that you can't see very well yet because it's just waking up. And we've got a Caryopteris, which is common name bluebird. They are, they're a shrub or they're a sub-shrub, depending upon how you want to look at it. They are, kind of a deciduous perennial that you cut back hard in spring. And then this plant is going to get 2 to 3 by 2 to 3. So it's substantial, but not huge. And it's late blooming, which is great because a lot of the, it will cross over and bloom at the same time as the roses, but the roses will start much earlier and they'll end. And then these Caryopteris will pick up the baton and run with it. And some of our other perennials that I have in mind are also late bloomers. And then we've got another structure making plant that we're going to get in there. This is a very dwarf pine, true dwarf. It's called slow mound mugo pine, and it's going to be very slow. You can just tell by looking at it that is a slow growing conifer. And I'll put up in the corner, I have a video where I talk about conifers and recognizing conifers that are going to grow really slowly. And this has all the hallmarks of that. You can just see that you can get a sense of how much it grew last year. And that wasn't very much. And so that bodes well for something remaining compact. All right. And then we get down to the beginning of what will be kind of the detail plants. And so these are some that I am going to be including. And then we'll be adding other perennials and flowering things to these. Some of these are evergreen, which kind of helps from a structure standpoint. But we got 6 of these. Again, I want the dark color. That's a euphorbia. That one's called Merlot. It's going to be quite compact, probably 18 by 18. Oops, sorry. Let's do that. Sorry for that rocking around. And then we have some other kind of flowering, compact. This is going to be a ground cover. We've got some of those rock roses, or sun rose, excuse me. Rock rose is often what you call cistus. These are helianthemums, and we call them sun roses. They cover the ground, and I've kind of got a little bit of an orangey tone that we're working with. And then these are an allium. So they're going to be puffs of purple, and I'm going to repeat these through there as well. So it's a little different allium. I use a lot of allium, Purple Sensation and Globe Master. This is going to be a little bit more like a clumping perennial. And I got 5 of them, which we will repeat through there. So that's an overview of the plants that we're putting in. And again, it's continuing to add some of the structure making, not structure in the sense of evergreen, but structural plants that are going to take up a decent footprint, but not huge. So we're adding those. Those will be the first things that I plant during this session of laying out plants for them. I'll position these first. And then we're down to, at least in the parking strip, we're going to be down to kind of filling in the blanks. And that's like the spaces between the plants that we've already laid out, that though it looks, sparse right now in this garden, I am ensuring that I leave enough space for these plants to grow in and do their thing. Okay, I've got the next set of plants laid out and ready for them to plant. And we'll just do a little quick walk through. So I've placed first the larger plants. I placed those roses, and actually I did end up using all 5 of them. And I'm, basically you can, the 2 gardens, I'm trying to have them, read as one and knit together. And so I am repeating and bouncing plants back and forth between the 2 gardens. So there are roses in both the slope on the property, and then roses out in the parking strip. And I've got that Caryopteris, and I'm repeating that. That's why I bought 3 of them, so that I have a couple out here in the parking strip, but I'm going to include one over here as well. The growing conditions are quite similar, yet towards the back it's going to be a little shadier. So in the front here we are doing sun lovers, and so and that's what we're doing in the parking strip. So the palette of plants can be pretty consistent between those 2. And I'll probably, when it gets to some of the perennials and some of the smaller ground covers, I'll be adding, maybe even picking up some more of some of these plants that I have in here, so that I can repeat them over here. And I'm doing that with plants that are small, right? So candidates for that would be that euphorbia, because it's only 12 to 18 inches tall and wide, and it's also going to be among the shortest lived plants in the garden. And on that note, I wanted to just kind of share with you this scene here and talk about the placement. So in the frame you can see that there's 3 euphorbias, and there is in front of us is that Hesperalo, that red yucca, and then to the right is the yucca color garden. Towards the back, right there in the middle of the frame, is that cistus, and then we have that rose over here, and then beyond we have other things. But in this scene here, the plants that are going to bulk up and kind of carry this section of the garden are that Hesperalo and the yucca, but really that cistus is going to really dominate that center area. But it's not going to do that this year, and so I like to fill the garden in around there. So I've got some perennials that are either going to be short-lived, or if they get crowded, are easily transplanted. So that's where I put some of the allium in there. I put the euphorbia. And then when we add even more perennials, I'll probably be putting, something else in there, with the intention of, 5 years from now when we come back, those perennials probably won't be there. Oh, I forgot another structure plant here because it's so transparent right now. That's the barberry orange rocket. And that's another thing that I'm thinking about as I place these. I wanted that vivid orangey red to play off of that golden yellow. And this cistus, it's not evident now, but I know that it has a dark burgundy eye. So that eye of the flower is going to echo the foliage color of that barberry, and then that barberry is going to be set off by that golden yellow. So they all kind of knit together, and then that dark burgundy is going to be echoed over here with that euphorbia, and so on. This dwarf conifer, I put it next to the path and to the sidewalk, but I left plenty of room because while it's slow, that just means it's slow. It's ultimately going to just kind of bulk up, and so I want to make sure it has room to live its life there comfortably for a long time. So I've spaced it away from the trunk of the tree, away from the sidewalk, and then away from our eventual path through there. Up front, we've got, these structural plants here, that yucca again, the repetition. Then we've got that brachyglottis, or that senecio. And then between that, we've got two kind of smaller plants and also ground huggers. So again, I don't want to, block the view of that trunk. So that this helianthemum right here is a ground cover. And so it'll just form a skirt around this to frame, kind of this scene here. We've got a little bit of burgundy foliage coming through. And what else do we got? I don't know if I've mentioned those alliums, but I have 5 of those kind of peppered through. So this is the next phase. And let me know if you have any questions about the plant selections.